What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi with my man Eric Sheets-Haber. We are going to be talking about some big Friday slates. We're going to get into baseball first. I did not do well at baseball this last week. The last 2 weeks, honestly, has been pretty miserable. But I did have a good time going to the game last night, although it was pretty freezing for an LA game, I have to say. The last 3 baseball games I went to, I think have dropped below 50, which is something as a kid I would never have thought would have happened growing up in Southern California. But it was a great time. Really good game. The ball was just completely dying out there. There probably was 5 or 6 balls that would have been gone on a normal day, just crushed, ended up at the wall. It was fun though. It was a good time. Sheets, how you doing?
Good. I had a couple of comments. First of all, with respect to DFS yesterday, it actually ties into your game. First of all, didn't do anything in basketball. With respect to baseball, the one I didn't pull the trigger. I wasn't quite good enough to play Javier. He I don't know if you noticed, he's had like 10 strikeouts in 5 innings or something like that. He ended up breaking the slate apparently. But
he only pitched 5 innings, right?
Yeah, of course. But here's the thing. So I had given up complete hope for baseball because I had all kinds of Mets, and even though Alonso did his thing, like everybody else was kind of whatever. I didn't have a couple of, and I had totally given up, and even in the 550 and 555 I was toast. And all of a sudden, like I was about to just do something else, and I saw that my winnings went to 1340 from 0 or something like that.
Oh. And
I'm like, whoa. And that wouldn't have got me even for the day, but certainly would have gotten me to respectability. So what happened? And I saw that Pollock hit the home run, right? Yeah. And I had him totally as a one-off in the midst of a Mets-Cubs stack or something like that, right? And it put me in the money lead, before bubbling by about literally a point. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so this is what I needed to happen. This is absolutely amazing. So first of all, Tatis and Machado both had to make out. This is when I started watching. They made out. Okay, no problem. Then I needed the Dodgers to do nothing in both the 8th and the 9th. Okay. So for the first in the 8th, there was a single or whatever, didn't involve me, whatever. And then they had that ball that landed on the line. They first called foul.
Oh, right.
And then I looked at it. I'm like, oh, they're going to let this go. This is fair. There was a big mark right on.
It wasn't actually for ball. It wasn't that close.
No, not at all. So then they moved them over. I'm like, oh, that's the end of that. And then noises up, whatever it is. And the Padres made the most. See, you were there. I don't know if you got a chance to see it live. The most amazing double play in the history of baseball.
That ball was 110 miles an hour. It was scorched.
And when the guy fumbled it,
yeah,
and they went to replay on that too, because first of all, whoever was covering barely kept his foot on the bag. I mean, by an inch. Yep. And then the guy at first was out by a freaking centimeter. Yep. Literally, both of those things had to happen to go to the dog to get to the 9th. And then I needed everybody to make out. And then even bets, that last thing, everybody had bets with 0.7 points of me. I needed him to make out, and everybody made out, and I min-cashed a couple of things.
Hey, it's always good when it works out that way for you. I personally would love to see that ball get through and the Dodgers get the win, but I'm happy it worked out for.
Yeah, this was the lineup, by the way. Literally all Mets and Cubs, just the one Pollock right in there.
Wild. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with the Dodgers. I'm still waiting to hear why Taylor. That's very weird for them to have 2 players scratched within an hour before game time.
Yeah, it was that caused a little bit of.
And Taylor, I saw in the dugout. I did not see McKinstry in there, and for them to both say back tightness just seems weird. Anyway, we'll move on to tonight, but it's going to be.
That caused a little bit of ruckus in my household. Let's put it that way.
What's that?
That caused a little ruckus in my household.
In your household, yeah. All right, well, let's get into this giant one, because I think that this is a slate to me. I really like multi-entering on these large slates, and I've got my daughter here with me. I'm thrilled. We're gonna just be able to hang out and maybe watch.
How tall is she now, by the way?
She's tall.
She's over 6 feet or no?
No. She's not that tall yet. I don't know if she wants to be much taller. I don't know. I can ask her.
Right. No, with girls it's different.
I know, seriously. It's
how tall are you?
I'm 6'2", But
Are you really? I didn't know you were almost as tall as me. I
oh no, but I was like, I was 6'2" when I was like 13, so I was supposed to be a giant.
Oh,
I stopped growing. Like our family grows really early, so you never know with us.
I was the anti-Bobby.
Yeah, I know. And unfortunately, usually for athleticism, it's better to be the anti-Bobby. You don't want to be that tall, that young. I had so many leg and stuff. I grew a foot in like a year. It was really bad.
Wow.
All right, let's jump into it. Oakland and Baltimore.
All right. So first of all, with overview, I want to do an overview of the slate as well, because somebody was on to was talking in Discord. He was talking about something else. He was frustrated because from the other night where these guys came out of nowhere and had good pitching performances and stuff like that. And what it got me thinking, I was talking to him and I was spewing on Discord a little bit that, while pitching on the one hand is very predictable, on the other hand, sometimes the depending on the slate of pitchers, it's just not. And depending on the pitchers, it really, for me, just kind of, decides how I'm going to play the slate. Like even this, how many lineups I might play, how I might do things. And I was waiting for a slate like this to give me an example. Like where the other day it was like impossible to find pitchers. Today, like it's just easy to find like at least one pitcher, right? But then you have to figure out, you want to pay double up for the two best pitchers, then you're doing one thing. If you want to play one pitcher and a 6K guy, then you're doing something else. And every slate is different, even though he's right. I mean, the pitchers usually are the most predictable. Sometimes they just aren't. And hopefully, again, I fight this a lot when we go do these slate previews. And I want to remind myself that I do want to continue to talk about process as we go through this stuff.
Process is the most important thing with baseball. And I just want to say, just to touch on what you're saying, pitching is the easiest to project on an average basis for somebody. Yes, it's still not as easy as basketball, by the way.
No,
but it's easy. No. It's the easiest to project in baseball. Now, that doesn't mean that it's easy, and it doesn't mean that every single night that it's a full slate, there won't be somebody from the bottom. And it's almost never. We might always think, oh, you pay up for these guys, and sure, they might have the highest this and that, but then Carlos Rodon comes out and throws a no-hitter. Or actually, he's a bad example because he's pitching well this year, but you know what I mean. It could be anybody else who comes from the bottom. And I've had a lot of people who have said some negative people, and that's fine. I don't mind being criticized when I'm wrong. What I would say is in baseball, I expect to be wrong mostly. Everybody's wrong mostly. I mean, that's the truth. If you're the best hitter in baseball, you're 35% of the time, maximum, the best hitter ever. 35% of the time, you're getting a hit. You're going to be wrong on these things, and we have to deal with it. We're going to make the best advice we can. We're going to try and stay with the same process, play the slates out right, and it's going to go in our favor. It's just going to go through.
Well, I want to give you kind of an example. So here's just like a simple math thing. So let's say you have one of these slates where you have like an SP1, and then you have an SP2 who's like kind of like the clear SP2, right? Some 7K guy who's like projects to be like a lock, projects to be whatever. And then you have like 6 guys that are the same price as 7K guys that are like just much lower owned. Okay. They're lower owned because they probably each of them have about maybe a 10% chance of outscoring that other SP2, right? Mm-hmm. But you keep something in mind, right? Here's just a little fake math. If you have 6 guys that are 10% to outscore somebody, the odds that at least one of them outscores you is about 50%. Okay. So the odds, so just because like you don't know which guy is going to beat you, guy's probably going to beat you. Someone's going to beat you, so before you go, play some like really chalky pitcher, running back, wide receiver, whatever, remember, if you're fighting with a whole bunch of other things underneath, you're not just necessarily going to have the nuts just because you rate to be the best of those given alternatives, especially on the big slates with a lot of options. Even though you don't know which guy's going to beat you, somebody's probably going to beat you.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. But again, at the same time, stick with the process, do the right things. And by the way, even if the other guys get the right guy and you don't, they have to get everything else right too.
Yes, that's correct.
It's not as simple as just getting the 1-to-1 part right. Yep. So let's get into it, man. Let's talk about these games. I think there's a lot of interestingness on this slate. I don't know, just because maybe the slates have been kind of lame lately, but I really like this slate.
I don't like either. Let's just get right into it then. I don't like either of the pitchers in this first game, and I do like Oakland quite a bit on both sites as a main stack. Both confirming that, yeah, both on DraftKings and on FanDuel. Oakland's one of my top stacks. I have Oakland as literally one of my top 2 stacks on FanDuel, and just below the Coors, the Phillies, and another value guy on DraftKings.
Okay, so I am totally so. This is the kind of spot I want to attack Oakland. I'm with you so far on everything. There's a lot of ways to do it too, but you've got a really cheap Mitch Moreland.
Yep.
Coming off a nice little 2 home run game. You've got Matt Olsen.
Yep.
Not right off of it, but a couple games ago. Matt Olsen, who started to heat up this year. He's hit 3 homers in his last 3 games, 5 in his last 8, I believe, 6 in his last 10. He's on fire. This is a huge park upgrade. Lopez is not a good pitcher, but he's not nearly as bad as some people might make you think he's gonna. Some people might make you think he is. But between a bad bullpen, good hitting conditions, an A's team that's explosive, everything sort of combined, it's hard for me not to have a lot of interest in the A's. And I think that just if you're going to do it, you don't need to worry in general about getting different on these slates as much because they are so big. But one thing I like doing, because it's 2 of my favorite plays on their team, is on FanDuel. Yep. Just play Moreland and Olsen together.
Yep, I was just about to ask you, where would you go on DraftKings when you have to pick one of those 2? I mean, you certainly get the incredible value with Moreland, but you get legitimate 2 home run upside every game with Olsen.
Right, and I think that, but I think Moreland. I mean, Moreland has power too. I mean, the only thing with Moreland is in this game you could end up seeing a lefty come in there. There's a chance Moreland could end up getting pulled at some point. In fact, he likely is to be pulled at some point. That's the one thing you worry about a little bit with him. And then you've got guys like, what I would do on DraftKings is I would rank them probably Moreland and Moreland and Olsen is still the top ones, followed by Chapman. Chapman's right there too. And then it would be Canna for me. I don't love paying huge prices for Jed Lowry. You're counting on multi-hits most of the time. I know he's had a couple home runs this year. This is not a power hitter. He's a good baseball hitter. In fact though, he looked like he was on the way out, and then all of a sudden he's 4.8K. I'm not doing that. But Sean Murphy would be my next play, and Canna. I mean, I do like Laureano. The price is a little tricky on DraftKings to get to and justify. By the way,
go ahead.
No, on the other side of this game, I think that Baltimore, like on a different slate, I would have them more in play, but I don't know if I'm going to end up getting to all of it. And everybody who knows me from the old RG days, there was 2 guys who I was famous for getting right all the time. It was Sano and Mancini. And I'm not going to say that I'm right on Mancini, but Mancini has looked really, really good so far, really, really good lately. He and Franco stand out to me a little bit.
Yeah, you froze. Who was the Oakland guy?
Sorry about that. That's a weird one. I don't know what happened there. Mancini. Okay. But I don't know that I'm gonna end up being able to afford him. I just wanted to throw it out there. Austin Hayes is really cheap over there. I don't think I'm gonna end up getting to the Baltimore stack, but I don't think it's the worst idea in the world.
Well, we do have to take a slate view of this, because whenever you're thinking of paying for anybody in hitting, you have to kind of think about how that's going to fit in if you want to play DeGrom and Glasnow or both, or something like that. So,
right. I
mean, and that's the reason why I'm not necessarily playing these 2 together. Well, maybe I am, but I always want to start by just putting these 2 guys in just to see, what's possible,
Sure.
And a full Oakland stack is probably not going to be possible with both those guys. I mean, you'll certainly be able to play one of them with one of the cheapies if you want to do that. But
it's possible. There's gonna be a couple 2K guys you're gonna see later.
Okay. All right. You want to move on to Washington Mets?
Yeah. I feel like this feels pretty much like. I mean, I'll come up with reasons to try to fade DeGrom later. I was going through some BVP stuff. They actually do like a decent enough job. He's still got like a 35% K rate against their team. And by the way, that's including guys who aren't in the lineup who are some of their better hitters. This is a weak Washington lineup without Soto. I'm as of right now, I'm having a very hard time not wanting to play DeGrom. It is nice weather, some nice hitting conditions. For the other side, maybe DeGrom gives up one bomb or something. I'm not going to try and find a spot to pick him off. I just am going to leave. I'm just going to play DeGrom here. And I have no problem with going right back to the Mets, but I don't want to just say stack everybody. But I don't mind, especially like you get the Nimmo, maybe Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso, Conforto would be my favorites, I guess. But I do think the Mets, maybe a one or two men of those guys, particularly Lindor, stands out to me today.
Yeah, just again, watch for Nimmo. He sat yesterday, and he might sit again today. And they might do the same thing with the lineup. They might let McNeil, whatchamacallit, they might put what's his name in again, whoever the Guillermo, whatever his name is. So maybe he gets another start. Just to keep an eye on that. And I like DeGrom as my best pitcher. Just to say what it is, I like he's my top pitcher on DraftKings, my top pitcher on FanDuel. I would say that. I mean, I don't want to say roots to failure, but I mean, Washington does take pitches, so maybe you could work him into the count a little bit. If it's kind of off the play, maybe if you get a bad umpire, I don't know who the umpire is going to be.
I'll take a look and see if I got that.
Yeah, maybe you get a bad umpire and you only get 6 innings and 30 fantasy points out of him or something like that.
It's probably good enough.
You know what I mean?
It's probably good enough.
It's good enough, but I mean that at least puts him in the conversation of you don't need him to win. You know what I mean? Yeah, and he is my best pitcher. I'm probably going to use him on FanDuel and I'm going to use him in every lineup, probably. And DraftKings, I'm going to use him if probably, unless I find like something really, really promising hitting wise and whatever that I have to pay down. I don't think I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm thinking maybe do one lineup with Glass now and some cheapie, but I don't know. DeGrom is just so freaking safe, man. I don't know. I think I'm just going to use him.
Yeah, I mean, I the only thing that I've ever said about like the DeGrom that sometimes throws off his things, and it hasn't really happened even lately that much, but he'll have like these weird like bad innings, and they'll say, oh, he tweaked a finger thing, so he comes out after he has weird stuff like that every now and then, which has always annoyed me. But I don't see how anybody can argue that he's not like so far and away the clear top pitcher on the slate, and it doesn't matter what happens. That's just the way that it is. I'm a little surprised that you came off the Mets bats a little bit. Because
no, these are my top. It's like my third best stack.
Oh, I didn't hear you say that. I'm sorry. I totally missed.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to it yet. Yeah, they're my third best stack on third best. Not actually quite, but like fourth or fifth best on DraftKings and pretty much about third or fourth on FanDuel. No, I like it a lot. I'm not going to. It's. I mean, absolutely. It seems like kind of like obvious in a way, they're facing a righty who doesn't strike anybody out, right? And so I'll go back to it. I don't know exactly how I'm going to get them in. What I'm probably going to end up doing is having to not play Glass now in these lineups. We'll see.
And my favorite Mets, I did mention the other ones, but I do think it would be Conforto, Lindor, Alonso. Not in that order. I think Lindor would be number one.
Yeah, I like all the lefties. I like Lindor, Smith, Conforto, McNeil.
Mm-hmm.
And just Alonso always.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, well said. All right. Well, we're gonna have lower ownership on it than it was last night on one side. Sheets. I think today people are gonna play Seattle, and a little bit, especially Mitch Haniger, and I have Haniger as one of the top one-offs of the slate. I also really like Kyle Lewis. But I don't think I'm getting. Look, I've talked about this for years. I'm not going to be stacking. I don't think either of these pitchers are bad, especially Boston. Fenway, obviously, great hitting conditions. It's rough. I mean, it's rough to totally just want to fade the high total on this. Not fade, but just not mostly try to fade it, I guess. I don't think these pitchers are that bad. It is blowing out to right center. I probably am going to get some pieces of this game, but I'm not like, I don't feel that I need to do this. I look at that Red Sox lineup, and outside of the top 5, which I even feel like is somewhat questionable in 2 spots, like I don't know. I'm just not like obsessed with it. So maybe you can talk me into it. I don't think Kikuchi is all that bad. I know it's a huge stadium downgrade. I do expect this team to score some runs. There'll probably be a couple home runs in this game. I mentioned Evan. I didn't mention Evan White also. White, Lewis, and Haniger are awesome plays. I think that's Seattle side. But I don't want to play a full stack, and I don't think I'm going to fully stack Boston.
Yeah, I mean, I like. I have Boston as my third best stack on FanDuel. I have Seattle as, like, believe it or not, one of my best stacks on FanDuel of all places. And also I have Seattle as my best on a second best, just below Coors on DraftKings alongside of Oakland. So, and yet on the other hand, I don't disagree with you with respect to these pitchers. I actually I'm kind of getting a hankering of playing Kikuchi. I'm probably not going to get there.
Okay.
I'm probably not going to do it, but because I do like another cheap guy more. But we play this guy as chalk. Not really, but we play him a lot, and I'm not scared of Boston. I'm really not scared of Boston, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, it's a huge stadium downgrade is for him, obviously.
I got you. I
mean,
mean,
but I hear you. I mean, go ahead.
So let me see it. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not. So I'm on both sides. I'm not playing Perez, by the way, but I'll be playing the hitters on both sides of this. I'm not quite getting to Kikuchi though, but I wouldn't kill you if you did. But I'm looking at it. There's a lot of guys around that price range who are pretty playable. But yeah, I do like Seattle. I do like Boston, and Seattle side. I think you picked up on the guys I like: Lewis, Haniger, White, Ty France, and Dylan Moore.
So I specifically go ahead, keep going.
And it makes you able to play, this double pairing like really easily.
Yeah, and to play like so. If I'm gonna rank the Boston guys, I mean Kike is the number one guy I would have. I actually think Verdugo would be number 2, which is weird because he's actually really good against lefties. But the guy who I've started to think is like just an interesting, like, 2 guys who should be well owned. I actually don't even know if he's going to be. He should be owned, but he is expensive. But JD, if you play JD in lineups that you have DeGrom somehow, that should be unusual somewhat, just because you're using so much of your salary. And I do like JD a ton in this matchup. Renfroe, there's some variance there. He could end up getting dropped. Maybe they shift up the lineup. Maybe you get Dahlbeck earlier in the lineup. But as of right now, definitely more interested in the Seattle side. Haniger, France, White especially, and we're White and Kyle Lewis especially. I actually talking myself into the Seattle side more and more. I just don't want to fully stack that often against Perez in general.
You like Seager?
A little. I mean, again, the lefty thing, I'm okay with him in general on a full slate at third at a good position at 4.6. I don't think I'm going to end up doing it. In a stack, fine, but I don't think I'm going to fully stack this team. I think it's going to be 3 men and things like that.
Okay. You want to move on to Toronto?
Yes, sir.
I have Glass now better than Kershaw. He's going to be, I would say, twice as owned as Kershaw, by the way. I have a feeling I know how people are going to play. They're going to play these. I think Kershaw is going to be, if you like him, I think you're going to get him at under 10%. I do. I think that these games are early. They're going to want to play these guys. You're going to want to play DeGrom. Make perfect sense. You're going to want to play Glass now, and I think Kershaw is going to be 10%. I just do.
Maybe even less.
Maybe even less. I'm just saying. And I guess I'll say that the Glass now is probably not an easy fade, but an easier fade for me than DeGrom. Just because, I mean, Toronto is a little more, I think, is a little bit tougher matchup, and Glasnow is a little bit worse. But Glasnow, make no mistake, man, he's been bringing some freaking heat like this whole season. And it's amazing how it didn't seem so long ago where he was being like innings managed. You know what I mean? Like,
but what's funny is that it's not so long ago. It was this season.
Yeah.
It was the first game of the season. He threw 77 pitches. It was the entire season and the postseason last season. And by the way, don't repeat this, but my Dodgers may go down if they don't make a terrible decision and take him out with 60 pitches and a one-hitter going, and the Dodgers come back to win Game 5. So that was a World Series potentially costing mistake. So maybe they are giving him more of the leash this year.
I mean, it's 100 pitches. It's 100 pitches, 3 games in a row. I mean,
2 games in a row. Yeah.
Well, I mean, 97, the one.
Oh yeah, I didn't see. Yeah, no, but that's what I mean is that maybe we can see it. Maybe we can look at it differently. That they are really letting him. I mean, he was tearing up Texas, so he kind of had to keep him in there. But yeah, I'm on board if we can try and do it. I'm higher on Glass now than I think he's like just a spectacularly good pitcher, really talented. And even though this is a talented Blue Jays offense, it's the stadium downgrade for them, although they're not really playing in Toronto anyway, but their actual stadium is pretty good hitters park too. Yeah, I don't have anything hitting wise from this game. I have a very mild interest in Mats. But I don't think I'm going to end up doing it. It just seems like you can find the 1200 to get to Glass now, probably. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I'm not playing Mats. If anything, I'll maybe I'll play some one-off from the Tampa side, but probably not. I mean, if anything, I'd play a Rosarena.
It'd be a Rosarena, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll probably avoid this game. I'll probably avoid everything except for Glass now. I mean, I heard the case being made for Mats. I'm just not going to get to that range. I don't think. I think that if I'm not going to play the two studs up top, I'm gonna pay significantly down.
Yeah.
But meanwhile,
I just want to point out one thing. I just want to say one thing about Mats going forward this season. I think that Mats has always had stuff to become a decent pitcher, and he's had a couple soft matchups early, but I think he's actually going to be decent this year. And maybe we don't use him today, but just keep him in mind. I think he's a
Long Island guy, I believe.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so New York and the.
So I don't know if you noticed this. See, very few people notice this. Like, well, in the middle of the night, sort of, to put some vision on it. Well, everybody was sleeping. Not really. When the vampires were still in their coffins, something happened that nobody even was able to see. And that is that the Yankees woke up. They played a game that was off the slate yesterday, and they scored 6 runs. So
is that waking up?
Well, when you get shut out every other game, I mean that's something, right?
Fair enough.
Like you said, we talked about upside, right? I mean, like it's you have upside from zero,
right?
So I don't like. I don't really like either of the pitchers in this game. And I do like the Yankees as like my 4th or 5th best stack on both sites, DraftKings and FanDuel. I like the regular guys. I like I think all the righties actually, like Stanton, Judge, LeMahieu, Urshela. I like those guys. Torres, I guess. So yeah, I definitely think that they're in play, and I don't like anything from Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment, man. I can't give up on these guys. It's baseball. This is the way it goes. You stick with the teams that have the long-term talent. And I mean,
Stanton's 4,200.
Stanton is 4,200. And by the way, there's no guarantee that he's going to have any ownership. Like, by the end of the day, people will come to their senses and realize we've got Logan Allen, the lefty, and we're going to have to try and take some shots here. But I mean, as of right now, maybe I'll change my mind. I think the Yankees may be number one for me. This team, for their prices, I mean, I could go all the way down and make a cash game argument for every player on their team today, except for maybe Clint Frazier and Aaron Hicks. Everyone. So how can they not be one of my favorite stacks? I just think that the explosiveness, as we haven't seen yet, I'm just not going to base things on that. I'm really not going to. And you're getting the offense with the best potential on the slate at what I think is going to end up being really low ownership. So I'm interested in the Yankees potentially as my number one stack. I
mean, Stanton at 4,200 seems to be kind of tough to. Again, I don't play cash games, but that would be one place I would start. Like there'd be that one, and then be like for example, I mean, we're not going to get to this later, but I would start with that one, and then maybe if he plays like Brad Miller, at 3K or on at first base, something like that. I don't know, but stand at 4,200. That's I got to get some of that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, they're all affordable. Even Judge is down lower than usual. LeMahieu's way lower than usual. it's going to be, and the Yankees are the team, you know what I mean? Like, even though it hasn't borne out this year, this is a team that doesn't just, it's not like they're scoring runs, slapping singles all over the place. There'll be some walks, but they're going to score a huge portion of their runs this year from home runs, obviously. And that's just the kind of stack that I want. So love the Yankees, especially as a 4-man or a 5-man even. I don't care either way. I just really, really like the Yankees today. I'm not going to play Jordan Montgomery.
No. KC Detroit.
Okay. I am definitely going to play some Mike Minor today. I don't care that he hasn't been particularly good. You know, I don't have a ton of respect for this Detroit lineup, and I think I'm going to not be able to help myself a little bit. It's the wind is coming sort of at a weird angle. I'm sort of curious to see if where it's going to be at. But if it sort of stays coming in from the outfield, sort of blowing a little bit right to left, but it's coming in from right field, I'll have more interest there. But to me, Minor stands out as a potential pay down that I could just see cruising past this Detroit team for 6 innings and getting 6 Ks or something like that, and getting you 18 to 20 fantasy points. I think it's really possible. I also like them to win tonight. So I have interest in Minor, and on a different slate, I would probably have an interest in some of these bats from KC, you know, Soler especially, but I don't think I'm going to do it on this slate.
Okay. So like they say, a phrase that I've come to love, and I'll get to it in a second. Just want to start by saying that Bobby and I did not talk about the slate at all before we started here.
Never do.
And so as a phrase that we like to say sometime, well, one of us is going to win because I want to play Detroit.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I was looking, and probably for the same reason that Minor's a good play, right? So I have a little bit of experience playing Mike Minor, and I think he's a really, really good tournament type play. Like he gets some strikeouts. He's a lot of strikeout upside, but oh boy, when Mike Minor's bad, I got a lot of tilt from that. And you know, if I want to play DeGrom and Glass now, there are going to be people that play Seattle as value, and I have two teams apart from Seattle that rate as decent value for me, and one of them is going to be Detroit. So I'm going to take a shot at some of that. So and we can both be right.
So what I would say though is that the only reason I hear what you're saying, but my only reason for saying this is I'm looking at Detroit's lineup, and outside of Wilson Ramos, and I guess you could say Jonathan Scope, but really the power hasn't been there for a couple of years now. Who are you getting your power from? Because none of these guys have really like any power from the right-handed side, like any. That's the only thing that worries me about trying to stack them on a slate like this. Now, maybe you could talk me into spending down in a few spots on something with Ramos, but I'm having trouble seeing it. This is why I like to go back and forth sometimes. I'm just curious. Do you think about like what upside it would take to win this slate? Can they do it? Or maybe you can combo them with a team like.
Well, that's the idea.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's the idea. If I can get out of Dodge with like Nico Goodrum at 3,600, even Reyes and Jacoby Jones at 2,800 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can open up some better bats for me in the DeGrom Glasnow lineups, and differentiate myself a little bit. So those guys, and then got this other guy, Reyes, Scope, like you said. There's another guy who's like really cheap, and I don't know who it is. I want to do a little more homework on it, but Zach Short. He's absolute stone minimum, and he might start. I think these guys create a build where you can, actually play real hitters. Like you could actually play some Coors with DeGrom and Glasnow if that's what you wanted to do. If you play some of these guys, so that's what drew me to these guys.
Yeah, I mean, look, maybe people get up too quickly on Scope, because Scope is a guy who people were paying 5+ K for a couple years ago against lefties, and Minor is definitely not unhittable. I'm going to take a quick look, just before we get out of here, just to see if there's any history, because I do like Minor, but I think there's other options. I just want to double check that I'm not crazy because I want to see what his history is against these guys. Hold on one second.
Remember having last year? Last year, minor was. I was playing him a bunch of times. Then remember the Texas manager came out and said we're going to shut him down. We were going to only let him pitch like 4 or 5 innings or something like that, like the rest of the season or something like that. But he looks healthier now.
Oh, no, but he was like, I mean, he was balling, like, wasn't he? I mean, am I missing? Maybe I missed it. Last year it's sort of a blur with some of the.
Oh, you know what? I meant the year before. That's them saying like
yeah.
All of this past short season was like a blur.
It's so tough, man, isn't it? I run into that problem all the time. Yeah, he was terrible, terrible last year.
Right. Oh, I got you.
Different spots, but they actually made the trade for him. No, that's what happened. And then, but the year before, he was really good. So I'm willing to overlook the last year and also realize that he's had 2 incredibly tough matchups so far. That's not going to continue to be the case. So I am definitely going to have a little bit of Mike Minor exposure.
You want to move on?
Yes, sir.
You like any of these, either of these turkeys?
So Acuna should be back in the lineup, and my favorite thing in the world is picking on Jared Weaver. I'm sorry, Luke Weaver, or trying to pick on Luke Weaver. It's been a lot of hit or miss in the past. This guy has some unbelievable games, and he just gets absolutely shelled. I'm interested in taking the Atlanta stack, but I think realistically, I mean, one thing is it's got to be low owned. The pricing is impossible basically with the pay ups, but I don't think I'm going to end up getting into it today. I'll just go ahead and say that anytime Acuna's playing, I'm just going to remind everybody he's the best play on every slate right now until further notice. And even whether Trout's healthy or not, I'm sorry he got hit last night. But I just think Acuna is just the best. There's no better fantasy player in baseball. There's nobody I don't think anybody all that close. Like imagine if Trey Turner hit 50 home runs in a season or something and could also hit like 320. Like, I don't know what else you can do with it than this guy does. And he's the best play every night, in my opinion. So that's the only thing I'd say.
You like the Inoue or no?
It feels like we're supposed to, right? I'm having a hard time with it. I don't really know why I am, but maybe it's too much prejudice from his past. I think that he's in play. Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to talk about Mike Minor, we can't say Inoue not in play against this Arizona team that, as much as you think they've crushed it, and they have hit some people, they've also like been just completely, Molly the other day just completely, was what did it was. He had I think he had 2 strikeouts in all of the first 5 innings or 4 innings. I can't remember. Anyway, minimum 2 strikeouts. I don't think I'm going to get you on this slate, but certainly when Atlanta's the team that one of those that you're afraid to fade for me on this slate.
Yeah, so I actually looked at Arizona in a similar way as I looked at Detroit a little bit. It's just a team that's just probably not going to do much, but might be cheap enough to open up some other stuff. So I actually do have some interest in the Arizona side. It did have like one really good outing, I think, or maybe 1.5. But like you said, I mean, he's got some history, and again, this is again slate stuff, right? So if I want to play DeGrom and Glass now, there's a couple ways I can go. I can play Seattle, right, which a lot of people are going to do. I could play Detroit, which is gross, but I could also play Arizona, which is equally gross. So I think I'm going to probably take a shot at this. So there's Pavin, Smith, Peralta, who definitely has not gotten a hit since the eyes are.
Wait. Peralta just coming off of maybe the best game of the year by anyone.
Oh, really?
5 for 6. 5 for 6 with 7 RBIs, a home run, a triple. He just missed the cycle.
You know what? It just goes to show you. You know what I mean? That just because a player has not done anything for like a week or 10 days.
Yeah,
doesn't mean they can't just break out of it.
Yeah, he's a good hitter. He shouldn't be 3,800. Escobar's a good hitter. Cole Calhoun is not a $2,900 hitter. So from that perspective, Sheets, I'm kind of with you on this a little bit. Like, I don't think I'm going to stack them, but all of those 3 guys.
Another guy, by the way, who's really cheap is this Nick Heath. He's 2,400.
No, it's just for me there.
Okay.
Guys getting 2 at bats at the bottom of the order. I'm just not. Never
is that okay?
For an offense that I don't love.
And then there's Ahmed. I mean, there's like cheap guys here, like I'm saying that like that if Noah gets wild or whatever it is, turn the lineup over a few times, get, scrap out a couple of things, maybe get one good hit out of this stuff, open up your lineups for other stuff. I think that I'm gonna try it.
I like it, Chiefs. I like that idea actually a little bit. I like again. I would just suggest that if you're going to play the Arizona stacks and the Detroit stacks, that I do think they should be complementary stacks.
Yes,
3 or 4
absolutely.
men, not necessarily main stacks like 5 men on this kind of stuff.
That's exactly what I'm doing, by the way.
Cool. That makes sense to me. All right, what are we going to do with this next one here?
I wasn't going to do anything with this next one.
Are we out on, there's no way we can play Dylan Cease? Because we sort of want to play everybody against Texas, right?
So he seems very reasonable at 6,600.
Can't seem to get through 5 innings for some reason.
He can't, but this is probably this is like really just such a stupid question. So yeah. We worry about about wins in Wrigley. It's just different at
Yep, very different.
At Comiskey. Okay. Is it even Comiskey anymore? I don't even know if it's Comiskey anymore.
It's I can't. To ask people, I bet you that most of the players can't tell you the names of the parks. It's really hard, man. They change them every year. It's like what happened with the bowl season in college football. It's like all of a sudden, it's the go whatever.
It's like GameStop Incorporated.
Yeah, whatever. For free.com bowl. Like it's just like
right. Okay.
So yeah, we're on the White Sox here.
I think both these pictures are somewhat interesting, actually. I definitely think that Cease has the better matchup. I think Dunning's actually a pretty.
He's been really good, man. I'll tell you that. You called that one at the beginning of the year, and he's been really good for anybody who's played him. I don't know if I can do it on this slate, and I know you're gonna say,
I don't think so.
But also Dunning. I hate to do this, but I love to do this. I mean, he was a White Sox last year, so
there's nothing wrong with that.
So maybe there is that.
I actually like Cease about the same as Minor.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good comp. But what about stacking the White Sox? Like, not just because he pitched for them, but they are getting healthy. If he gets into trouble early, that bullpen can get lit up. They've got a lot of weak spots, and they're willing to test out some young arms because I think Texas is really bad, and I don't care what the records or the early numbers say. I really don't think that matters. I'm going to take the overall of what they've got. This team has got this is a deep lineup. I mean, Vaughn and Robert are good. Like, you've got Anderson back in there now. Eaton's been really good so far. I actually really like Moncada as a one-off today. He's right in there with my favorite third baseman.
I don't know. I just feel I'd rather have the Yankees.
I tend to feel the same. I just want to throw them out there because this White Sox team has a lot of talent. That's all I say. And you can play Grandal and Mercedes in the same lineup if you want to. Now they finally have moved one of them away. Mercedes.
I think he might be on the injured list. Mercedes.
That's weird. I've got him as projected as in, but I can't update.
He's headed there.
Maybe he is. Yeah, I might have missed that.
No, he's not on the injured list, but he's he's definitely injured.
All right. Well, I wouldn't play him if he doesn't play. That would be my strategy.
He hasn't played since the 20th.
It's only been a couple of days, but yeah, I hear you. So even if whether he's in or not, if he's in, I like them even better. But I mean, another great example of how these brilliant baseball minds that figure out all this stuff and all these advanced stuff, and they can't figure out this guy doesn't belong in the major leagues, and it's been 8 years in the minors, and then he comes in the major leagues and becomes like the best hitter in the league. So geniuses out there. Sorry.
I guess I like Robert at 4,400. That's cheap enough.
Yeah, it's hard to find the one-offs outside the stack, I think. Well, Grandal, too. Andrew Vaughn, probably don't want to do it batting 8th, but I think Moncada is right there.
And you could always play, what's his name, from Texas, the Gallo. And who's the guy that hits a home, the wrong Lau, the Nate Lau.
Yeah, he left Tampa, and now we don't have to worry. We don't have to get him mixed up. But I still got him mixed up for you the other day.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? But then Brandon Lau did hit a home run, so maybe it was all for the better anyway.
That's right.
All right, so let's move on to this is a huge slate. Jesus, Pittsburgh and Minnesota.
I actually had the Angels Astros next.
Oh, my fault. Let's do that.
So you have Haney, who is 6,500. Who you get another chance to play him at low ownership. you played him at low ownership on like a 2-game slate. No one wanted him, or something like that. And then he was chalk, and we avoided him, I think, correctly. Now he's 6,500. You can't have everything in this world, right? You can't have him 6,500 in a perfect matchup and low owned, right? So you got to give up something. So there he's against Houston. All right. So like I say, you can't have everything, but I don't know. He definitely has strikeout upside. He's 6,500 and low ownership. Is this the worst play in the world?
No, not at all. I would just say that. Okay, I remember doing this before last year. Pitch profile wise, it doesn't grade out terrifically for him. These are not high strikeout guys versus his pitch types. And he's had a little bit of history with them, and sort of the numbers that sort of bear that out a little bit. He also hasn't walked hardly anybody though. In the set 3 walks and 73 played 73 at bats. It's actually pretty good. So I mean, I don't want to draw everything from that. He's 6,500. I'm okay with taking a shot. Obviously, the lineup, it looks a little better for the Astros, and we sort of touched on it last night. Maybe they're shuffling it up, sort of help them out. They definitely looked better last night. But I can definitely get behind. I mean, look, Heaney's, if we do get him low owned, I think he's right there. So Heaney, Minor, Cease, Inoa right now I'm deciding, and then I'm wondering if I even need to make that decision because I can just play DeGrom or Glass now. DeGrom and Glass now.
Haney's pitch count's a little disturbing, but
Zach Greinke is also, I mean, we have to talk about this. He's too cheap.
You sure?
I mean, what do we exactly expect from him? He's had one bad outing this year. He's gone 6, 7, and 8 the other 3 outings. Put up 24, 23.7, 16.1, and 31.6 his last time out.
Well, I definitely think if Trout is out,
he did
say that he was going to play. But
I think Trout is going to be out.
The manager mentioned that he was going to play today. He said, he came out with a bruise, but he expects him to play.
And I do not. Okay, I have a little bit of interest in Greinke, but I'd probably, again, just find the extra 1,400. I'm just going to throw him out there as a potential play. Huh. When if he gets any lower, like if he gets roughed up tonight and somehow ends up around 8K next time, I don't even care who he's pitching against. I'll take him. He's still a really, really good pitcher.
So Haney is part of my 6,500 crew. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, my main one, and maybe I'm going to, shoot me now or whatever, kill me now, whatever they say. I have J Happ as a little better than all those guys.
Oh, we're going on to that. Okay, so we.
I'm sorry.
I don't like any of the hitting. I just want to make sure I don't make sure that you miss anything.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about the hitting is that you're getting a really good price on Alex Bregman against any lefty. So Bregman especially would be. I mean, I actually think Bregman as a one-off is probably even better than I mentioned the Moncada and the other guys, but I would say Bregman's probably a little ahead of those guys.
Okay, so talk to me about J.A. Happ.
We all know that Happ, when he's on, he can be absolutely awesome. He can be dominant. It's been a rough couple years for him, but even in those rough years, we've still seen the glimpses of the good. The K rate is reasonable. He's had some a tough matchup against Boston last time out, getting, his pitch back. He didn't look great against Detroit. He can be inefficient. He's frustrating to watch, like you mentioned about some guys, because he can get wild and it feels like you got 3-ball counts all the time. But I don't buy much into this Pittsburgh offense at all. I know they're getting an upgrade going to an American League Park. I just think that Happ has a chance he's like one of the cheap guys who I sort of, along with Minor, the guy we used to pay like 9K for, that still have that ability to get that in them. It's 53 degrees in Minnesota. It's not like particularly bad or good hitting weather. I just think that look at the total even. Like, I don't understand how he's not, like, I think he might end up being like some other people's like main SP2 for, like, I don't know about cash yet. We have to get through the whole slate, but if you were going to pay down, he's definitely one of, if not the best, one of my favorites.
You like any of the hitting?
I always love the low-owned Twins, and they exploded off of a slate for me. But again, I don't think that I can do it on this giant slate with the pricing the way. I mean, it is wild. Like, Byron Buxton, and by the way, he's been good for his price too at 6.1K. Like he put up, he's every game. It feels like it's somewhere between 10 and 30. Nelson Cruz hit 2 home runs yesterday. Josh Donaldson with an explosion, but they priced him back up again. I think
They did not price up. They did not price up Jay Cave.
Jay Cave and Alex Kirilloff are the two that you can use if you wanted to try and make this a stack. So yeah, I guess the Twins can be put on the list, but I don't have them very high on it, to be honest.
So with respect to J.A. Happ and Brubaker or whatever, so as I mentioned before, we don't talk about the slate beforehand. I just want to rewind what Bobby said just now. He said that J.A. Happ, of all these 6,500 guys, he actually has them probably a little bit better than the other ones. What I was going to say is J.A. Happ, for me, I rate him a little bit better than all these other guys. I mean, literally the exact same.
I thought you were going to go completely the opposite direction.
No. Yeah, everybody thinks I'm so predictable. But I have the exact same. I have like of all these 6,500 guys and 7K guys or whatever it is, I do have Happ slightly better than all the others. Not by like a huge amount, but he's on my list as the first SP2 like on my list. Behind there's SP1. So absolutely, I'm totally in there.
There's one guy who I'm going to mention who is a one-off potential play in this game against Happ, if you're not using him, obviously, is Jacob Stallings batting 5th at 3,600 as a catcher.
Oh, he bats 5th nowadays?
Yeah, I just think that, like, even though I like paying down a catcher or using it in stacks and all that stuff, at 3,500 for that guy batting 5th in the American League Park, the little upgrade there, I just think he's a reasonable one-off.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
As we go into this next game. So Sonny Gray is on a pitch limit?
I believe he is, because you're saying that's because he would be I mean, look, I actually don't have that right in front of me. We've gone through so much stuff, but
No, because I was listening to the podcast and someone was saying that, they don't expect him to throw a couple innings or his leash or whatever it is. I know he had back spasms before the season or whatever.
I would expect that they would bring him along very slowly.
Okay. Because, I mean, this is – he has a – I mean, when he's rolling, he has a freaking ceiling, man. I mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
So if you're between him and the other one and against Darvish, for example, like those are two guys who could put up a number, they're not going to put up the number as often as or as high as DeGrom and Glasnow, but I mean, like you're looking for pivots, looking for stuff to do. I mean, that's why I was asking you about Sonny Gray. Like he's really not rating for me like at all. He's like, my 10th best pitch or something like that. I'm just curious, like if it's because he has a pitch limit that he's rating the way he is. Because
if there's not a hard pitch limit, I would be shocked if there's not some. I mean, look, maybe they pulled him out because he was struggling in the last game, but he only threw 71 pitches in the 5th inning. That's a pretty early hook. But the thing is, this lineup profile is like really good for Gray. Like, okay. I mean, it's righties. It's righties that will gamble with their swings, that he's awesome at taking advantage of that. And that's when he gets his strikeouts. They really don't have lefties that will scare you particularly. I'm just going to take a quick look. Even though Gray's career stats shouldn't be used like other players because he's been a different pitcher like 3 times.
Yes.
In his career. But I am just kind of curious how he's profiled against these guys. And a lot of it's been in the American League, so it's hard to know what we've got here. But I'm just going to see what he's done. Specifically just versus the lineup. Yeah, not much to draw from there. Actually, if you did look at that, you would sort of think that you want to play him. Wow, they have no home runs, 44 bats. They're hitting 130 with 15 strikeouts. Okay, that's only 44 bats though. But yeah, I think Sonny Gray, maybe we can find out more about that. In fact, we should by the time the show goes later. Like, I don't know. I still don't know that he's that great of a play.
He's not that great of a play.
But I mean, you do have look, he's pitching in the National League versus Glasnow in the American League. You're going to get obviously significant ownership discount. You have some pricing discount. You've got a pretty well-suited lineup for Gray. You can always adjust because you get an extra hour. If all your guys hit home runs, maybe you can pivot onto a more chalky Kershaw or something or not even extra Kershaw won't even be chalky. I don't even know if I'd want to do that, but I'm just thinking out loud. Like you can probably get you some pivotability. I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking about why it's a good play. I can get behind it, Sheets. I think that even on a big slate, I'm probably not going to do it a ton of it. But if I enter 10 lineups, he probably is going to make one of them.
I'll tell you, man. Like, so Glasnow's playing Toronto, pitching against Toronto, right? And Toronto's got some guys who can hit the baseball, and if they get to him, and the Glasnow lineups start to fizzle. I don't know. Gray can put up. I don't know. He can put up a number. Like Gray can put up a number. Darvish can put up a number. But Gray actually, like you said, has a matchup that he could. I didn't even think about this. That if he actually profiles well against them, also. I mean, it certainly doesn't. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to get there. Like I said, but in if I'm playing a bunch of lineups, I'm certainly use it.
Yeah. Okay. I can get behind it.
Any hitting?
No. In fact, and also one other thing that's going to keep this game. I mean, there is a little bit of weather concern, so just anyway. Okay. Go hitting for me. I look. I don't know how long Kim will pitch, but I actually think that Suarez. I mean, on FanDuel, Suarez, if he's in, Castellanos, Senzel, even on DraftKings, those guys are fine. But I don't think I'm going to do it today.
So let's move on to Philly, Colorado. So interestingly. So I'm going to go one of two ways. So I was about to say that if you wanted to play Colorado, you might get them at low ownership, sort of, maybe. And the real reason I mention it is like when I'm developing my model, developing my stuff along the way, and so I'm not up to, I don't consider itself like usable really by like all the people. But if my stuff is not coming up with Colorado like almost at all, it's probably the same like throughout the industry. And if that's the case, then maybe Colorado isn't going to really show up that much. And as a result, you might be able to get them at low ownership. That would be my logic. Because I'm not really getting it too much. The only side I'm getting to is actually Philly, and honestly, only on DraftKings. I don't know what it is. I'm not really getting to them on FanDuel for some reason. I'm getting to other teams more than them, but I'm definitely getting to Philly on DraftKings. That being Miller, McCutchen, Rice, Baum, just Bryce, normal guys. And I'm sort of interested in Marquez at 6,100. I mean, he's in that list of below 7K guys that I may take a shot at. So that's pretty much where I'm at. Where are you? Where are you in this game?
I don't see any reason why everyone's not going to play this game. So I don't agree.
Okay.
I think this is I think it's going to be ultra. For a 14-game slate, I think it's going to be as chalky as it can be. Look at the prices of these guys. Story's 5.1. He'll be 30+% owned. I really believe that. And he's a great play. Blackman is 4,500. Crone is 3,900. They don't have a ton of guys on the rock. And McMahon is the expensive 152. And Toppy is 3K, but people get tired of playing him because he doesn't have power. But he's a good real life talent to come, And then you've got the Philly side of it. 3.9 for McCutchen in Coors. Rhys Hoskins is 4.6. Alec Baum is 3.5 in Coors. I mean, if for any reason this game is not going to be stack the hell out of it. Like, I actually like Marquis, and I think Velasquez is hit or miss as a pitcher. I would stack the hell out of it.
I just like the Philly side a lot more than the Colorado side.
Okay, Trevor Story would be my favorite player in the game, but other than that, I would. But the issue is that Marquis is a better pitcher than Velasquez is, and is good. Like, I mean, he just dominated the Mets at home. Like, dominated. What did he give up? Like 2 hits? Yeah, 2 hits in 7 innings. I mean, so far this year, the only team that's even kind of gotten to him, and he's pitched only at home, except he had 1 game at the Giants, was the Dodgers, and they didn't even really get to him.
Right.
I mean, look, on a different slate, I would be saying we should take some shots with Marquis, and maybe not quite. We're going to find times this year to play this guy. This is not going to be one of them. But look, it's too easy to stack. I don't understand what they're doing with Moniak and Miller's price. Like, you can stack Philly every which way. I mean, Philly is like, you could stack this game so easily with the best pitchers. It's so easy. It's annoying a little bit, to be honest with you. But maybe the answer then is to try and pick a couple. So if you're going to pick pieces, my favorite pieces would be Baum, Cron, Story, Hoskins, McCutchen.
Well, one thing about Hoskins that you would keep in mind is that you have that same situation as you had with Moreland. If you wanted to play Brad Miller, right? You could play both him
Interesting. Yeah.
and them on FanDuel if you want to do that. But you would have to make a choice on DraftKings.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, here's the best SP2 cheap guy I think that's going to grade out this. I'm pretty sure he will.
You like the Alex Wood?
Alex Wood is a good enough pitcher pitching in San Francisco against a weak Marlins lineup. They do seem a little bit better against lefties for what it's worth. But I would be happy to play Alex Wood. In fact, I would be surprised if there's not a decent history because Alex Wood's pitched forever, including for my Dodgers for a while. Let's just take a quick look and see what the history tells us if there's anything. And when I look at that stuff, unless there's like 100 plate appearances for the lineup that'll be active, it's hard. And that's not very common that happens, but it does occasionally. If you get 75, that's, something worth looking at. Mostly I'm looking for K rates and walks and things like that. 1 walk and 43 at bats, not really much of a history. They haven't hit him at all. Decent K rate, 32%. Yeah, I think Alex Wood is definitely a guy you'd want to spend down for. But the more I think about this slate, I might just be trying to cram in the top two. And by the way, it doesn't even need to be Glass now. I mean, we mentioned Gray. We'll mention another guy in a minute. But I think you can. There are routes to doing it, but I don't know that you need to, because one of these between Hap, Minor, Cease, Noah, Gray. Obviously Gray we just mentioned, and then this game, and then Alex Wood. I think that there's enough out there where you can expect one of these guys to probably beat the other guys.
Well, I would throw in, by the way, as long
Alcantara.
as I would throw in Alcantara in that mix also. I honestly didn't even know which way you were going to go when you said, well, in this game, the clear next SP2. If you had said Alcantara, I literally would not have been surprised. I mean, I think Alcantara is very, 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 very usable.
You know what? Maybe that is even. The Giants have been a little bit peskier and the Marlins, again, always everybody says they're pesky, whatever. I'll look at the numbers by the season. I think the Giants lineup's a little bit better, but I mean, look at Alcantara. He's had some tough matchups, man, or reasonably tough. And this guy has been freaking awesome. Like, I know that the game against the Braves, he didn't put up a ton of fantasy points, but that's forgivable against a really good Braves offense in Atlanta. But he still pitched 6 1/3. And what did he give up? 2 runs, 3 runs? Yeah, man. I actually might be really close on both these guys. They're both really good, legitimate options. No interest in any hitters whatsoever in this game.
Yeah, I'm honestly between Hap, Wood, Minor, Cease, Marquis, Alcantara. I mean, I really just, I don't want to say would flip a coin. I would live with it. I would live with any of them, really, unless one of them decided to just garner ownership out of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Right.
I would like to think that it's going to be spread out among those guys. That's what I have right now. Like right now, this is early ownership. I have the top owned guy of that group be Minor at 10%. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Hap at 10 and Wood at 10. All those guys with the 10.
Right. Yeah. All right. You want to get into the last one?
Yeah, no hitting from that game?
No, I can't do it.
Me neither.
Okay. Another cold one here in LA.
Oh, yeah, Alexa has spoken.
A little better. It's 60 degrees as opposed to 52, although it said 58 at the stadium, but it was BS. They were just lying to try and make us feel like we should have been warmer. Yeah, I'll tell you what, that ball Trent Grisham hit last night was one of the hardest balls I've seen hit in person. There was like 5 or 6 balls literally just crushed and looked like they were going out, but you knew they weren't because the ball just wasn't carrying. They just got to the track. It was so cold out there. And then Trent Grisham hit one up in the middle of the stands in right field that was just an absolute launch. It was incredible. I have a weird take on, I think Tatis is one of the best one-offs of the slate, and it feels weird. I mean, I'm a Dodger fan, obviously, so you guys can come after me for going against my Dodgers here, but I actually think Tatis at 4.6 against Kershaw. Kershaw's been going through a pattern too of giving up more and more stolen bases as his career's gone on, including this season. So Tatis has sort of a double whammy here, and along with Acuna throughout the season, I'm going to mention Tatis as being one of the other awesome plays. Well, I think Seager's a much better hitter. I think Tatis with the stolen base upside combined with the power and the way that he swings is really interesting. I don't think I will play you Darvish, but I wouldn't fault someone for doing it. Dodgers lineup is struggling right now, not healthy, obviously. They're playing, the bottom of the lineup is just a bunch of guys you wouldn't expect to see in the Dodger lineups. But I also think that, like, if this was a small slate, I would talk about the Dodgers attacking Darvish. Plus, it sucks. I actually like Yu Darvish very much as a person. He did cost us the World Series, well, partially him and the cheating Astros. But it's I feel bad for him. He's gonna go into, you got to know that this guy gets emotionally rattled a lot. He did when he was a Dodger. He did in the postseason. And to go back to a stadium where I'm guessing everyone will treat him like they treated Manny so far and just boo the hell out of him. I think that's going to have some sort of a mental effect. His last game he pitched against the Dodgers was in San Diego, and that was the last game. Not to mention you have a good offense. That's my arguments against Darvish. And I think Kershaw is behind what's called for me, just because I have respect for San Diego's offense.
Yeah, I agree with the last part. I have Kershaw below Glasnow, as I mentioned early. I do think that Darvish is, it's going to be one of those where if you have a score in, you might end up being sweating some Darvish lineup. You might have to be rooting for the Dodgers a little bit.
You think many people are going to play him? I think maybe like 5 to 10%, maybe 10%.
Well, right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
And his last game, he played the same team and at 25 fantasy points and 100 innings, 100 pitches and 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, 7, you know what I mean? And he got the loss.
So we'll call that his stealing against the Dodgers, right? Fair, right?
What's that?
That's a ceiling against the Dodgers. Is that fair?
That's fair, except we have to define what the Dodgers is. You know what I mean? You were saying, you don't know. I mean, like if they keep throwing out like Sheldon Neuse and all kinds of other sundries. You know what I mean? You gotta respect him. You know what I mean? I feel as though if DeGrom were not on this slate, I would be making a case for him over Glasnow somehow. I don't know why. You know what I mean? Because right now I have Glasnow as like clearly better than Darvish, right? So I guess that's kind of dumb for me to say. I don't know.
These guys just faced each other, and you're much more into the Darvish thing. These guys just faced each other, and Kershaw was actually better from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I have him well below Darvish. I have Darvish well below Kershaw.
Oh, I thought you had Darvish ahead of Kershaw. Excuse me.
No, I have Darvish well below Kershaw.
Okay.
But I just, for whatever reason, feel as though to crop off the slate, I would like Darvish. I don't know what it is. Anyway, I'm probably not going to get there. If you want to play him, totally cool. I'm probably going to end up fading the whole game. Probably a great game, right?
Yeah, exciting game that I don't really want a whole bunch to do with, but I do. I don't say this very often, so, and I'm not saying it's going to work every time. This is baseball. The odds of Tatis hitting a home run tonight are very small, but if there's an interesting one-off, or if you're going to stack the Coors game and play the other guys, I mean, Tatis is a cheap at 4.6 against Kershaw here. And I feel like, honestly, it's a guaranteed stolen base waiting to happen. He's going to go like every time he gets on. And Kershaw's been giving up more stolen bases. Not to mention that you add the power upside and the fact that Tatis is basically 1,000 cheaper than he ever is usually. I just think it's interesting.
You could play like a 2-man disrespect stack with Tatis and Stanton.
There you go. I love it. Yeah.
Play the 2 of those guys.
Respect my price. All right. Well, we went through a bunch of things. Guys, we'll be back with you at 6 Eastern, right, Sheets?
I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. We're going to.
Okay. So I'll do something, but hopefully Sheets will make it and we can do this, because I want to go into this weekend feeling good with a nice win. I think we talked through a bunch of stuff, and any other thoughts or questions, drop things in Discord. Guys, let's pop the Discord. Let's keep it going. Sheets has been really active, and let's keep the back and forths going in there. And we'll get to NBA. Either Sheets will or I will later. Sheets, do you have time to record one now, or do you want to do it?
Absolutely. I'm ready.
We're going to end this and do NBA. Good luck, everybody.